Welcome back to the Beyond the Swearing Stone read along. This is our third video in the series, but it's our second discussion. This week we read chapters 12 through 22. There's only 1 week left. We're 2/3 of the way through. What do you guys think? Let me know. We got a bunch of questions this week from you guys, so we're going to jump right in with those and we'll see how long that takes us. What were you drinking last week? Well, last week I was drinking kind of a homemade version of Starbucks medicine ball tea. So quick recipe here. 3/4 of a cup of lemonade, the real stuff, not the fake, just flavor stuff. 3/4 cup of water, heat that. Then you steep peach tea and a mint tea in there for a few minutes. Sweeten it with honey, and you've got that. It's really nice for a sore throat. I just was drinking it because I like it and it's good. Okay, why did you make the neighbors busybodies? Every neighborhood has busybodies. At least every neighborhood I've ever been in. People who always know what's going on, who kind of have their fingers in different people's lives. It just seemed natural, and I needed Duncan to have someone pushing him. So it kind of ticked a bunch of boxes that I needed to have covered. But every neighborhood has someone. Growing up, we called one of the neighbors the Rachel Lynde of the neighborhood. If you have read Anne of Green Gables or watched the movies, you know Rachel Lynde. She cannot rest until she knows what's going on in everybody's lives. So it kind of stemmed from that. How do you pronounce the name E-O-I-N? It's Owen. Very simple, nothing weird, just not a usual spelling here in America. When did you go to Ireland, and what was your favorite thing? Well, I went to Ireland many, many, many years ago. It was after my first year in college. I went with a group of musicians, and we were performing there. I performed the Bartók Viola Concerto. So that takes me back. So it was, I will admit, it was in the 90s, mid-90s. I'm old, yes. And what was your favorite thing? I had so many favorite things. I obviously loved Castle Dermot because it stuck with me. I also loved Howth. It was beautiful, and we did go on the beach. We just avoided the jellyfish. My favorite thing in Dublin was people's front doors. All of the doors were different colors, and it was so cheerful. And just in the last few years, people around here have been doing their front doors different colors, but that was a new thing to me, having the front doors be all different colors. And the doorknobs, I wanted to bring a doorknob home with me, but that wouldn't have fit in my suitcase. The doorknobs were in the center of the door, so it was not something we see much here ever, but I would actually really love one of those doorknobs, having the doorknob in the middle of the door. I don't know, it just seemed so unusual, and paired with the bright colored doors, just really fun. For those of you wondering, my front door is purple. Also, I did bring home souvenirs, of course. Favorite things, I had a sweater of Irish wool. It was a heather green. I have this bud vase, which I absolutely love. It is spalted birch, and this is my favorite part right here. My teacup, clearly a favorite. Nobody touches my teacup. I collect teacups, but this one is probably my favorite. A handkerchief. I do actually use handkerchiefs. I'm a weird person and actually use handkerchiefs, so there's that. But I don't use this one. This one is special. Was modern Castle Dermot just from your memory? No, it was not just from my memory. Yes, I did things from my memory with it, but I showed in the first video, I had printed out a Google map and I marked where a bunch of different businesses and things were. But I also used Google Street View. So it's like you're driving down the street of the town, and oh my goodness, it was awful. It made me so motion sick because it's like you jerk forward, and then you jerk forward and you're stopped, and then you jerk forward. Oh, but I spent a lot of time using it. I just had to do it in short bursts so that I didn't get sick. But yeah, I used that to drive through the town a whole bunch, and the house across the street from the church was for sale, and I wanted to go buy it. So yes, that was part of how I did Castle Dermot modern day. I also sent a lot of questions to Dr. Sharon Green. She answered a lot. What color the church door currently was, color of the carpet inside the church. She sent me pictures of the interior of the church. So when I described that in this week's reading, that is how it was in these pictures with the buttery walls. And so that helped bring it alive, I think. This one is spoiler. So this is a big spoiler alert. This question was written all in caps, and it says, "How could you do that to Gran?" Well, very easily actually, because authors are evil. We put people through bad things on purpose, and then we try to find more things to put them through. I have another author friend, and we swap manuscripts and give each other feedback. And when she was reading this, she got to this part with Gran, and all that it said was, "If you kill Gran, I will never forgive you." So Gran is a favorite, and nobody appreciated me putting her in harm's way. Was it hard to learn about all the clothing? The clothing actually was easy to learn about. There are a couple of different clothing. There was the Irish clothes, which you can look online and see all sorts of pictures of. And then the Anglo-Normans in town would wear what was being worn across England at the time. So there was a book that I checked out from the library. I believe it was called A Time Traveler's Guide to Medieval England. I will check on that. But I used that to reference a lot of things, but mainly the clothing. There were other books that I read about the clothing of that time period. So it wasn't hard, but it did take effort. I did take notes on when different things happened in fashion with that. And so it was a little time consuming, but it wasn't difficult. So many books have family be incidental. Why did you choose to have Bree's family be close? Well, the story kind of relies on Bree having a close relationship with her grandmother, so she knows the history of her family so that she can make the connections and it can all work out the way that it needed to. But also, family is very important to me. I've always been close to my family. I didn't want her to be estranged from everybody. There are parts of her family that she is not part of. Her whole father's side of her family she has nothing to do with. And her mother did die when she was a child. So there is that, and in a way that kind of helped her be closer to her grandmother so that she could embrace all of these things more. But really it's just because I see family as being very important, and some stories require that the person be alone. This was not one of them. What program do you use to write? I use Storyist. Hold on. I came prepared today. I don't have to run up the stairs like I did last week. So this is my computer. This is what I write on, although I do have the program on my iPad and my phone as well, and I can access it from any of my devices. So if I'm sitting somewhere and I just have my phone and I have a few minutes, I can get in and work. So this, I don't know if it's going to reflect light or if it's going to be okay. This is the program, and I put it in dark because I don't like having the bright white glaring into my eyes. So this is actually this book. So chapter 1, and you'll notice over here this big line of all of the different chapters. It is a good program for being able to rearrange things. So if I wrote something and I'm like, well, I kind of want that to happen after this, I can just drag scenes or chapters. I can just grab it here and move it around. So it's really good for that type of editing. It can track your word count goals. It can do a bunch of that. It has, let's see if I can find it. So like it has different pages that you can go to, and these are each a different file for a different character, so I can keep track of the character arcs, or keep track of what color their eyes are, or how tall they are, or any of that stuff. So there are a lot of really good things on this program that I love. It's similar to Scrivener, but I really do enjoy working on this program. Once the story is finished, I move it into Word, where I do all the formatting, and I change the page size and font size and spacing and whatnot. I get it all ready for publication in Word. And then after that, I turn it into a PDF and it's done. Except for the Kindle version. I have a different app that I use for that. So once I have the print version done, I clear all of the formatting and copy it. And let's see if I can find the app. It's called Kindle Create. So that's how I do the formatting for my Kindle books. I use Microsoft Word for the paperback. And just while I'm going through it all, I use Pixelmator to design the covers. I design all of my own covers. I do all of my own formatting. So that is extra work that takes me away from the writing side of it, but it's stuff that I enjoy. Okay, I kind of got off topic. I do that. Last question. Do you have a soundtrack? Some authors kind of create their own soundtrack for the book, things for different scenes, things for what they were listening to when they were writing. I do not listen to music with lyrics when I am writing because it's too easy for me to get distracted and start typing the words of the song. I also can't listen to classical music that I have played before because then my fingers start trying to play my viola part and it makes up nonsense words. So I have to listen to music with no lyrics and music that I have not ever played before, which makes it hard. However, when I was away from writing, whatever, I did listen to a lot of music. I actually shared on social media this week a playlist that I have just with some examples of what I listened to. I will put the link for that in the description box below. So if you want to check that out, you can. So on to this week's reading. This week, we're finishing the book, and I am kind of torn on that. It's bittersweet because I love the story and I want to get to the end. But I'm having fun doing this with you, and I don't want it to end. On that note, if this is something that you have enjoyed, please let me know, and we might do it again with another book. For now, I don't have any plans to, but it is something I'm definitely open to if this is something that you guys enjoy. So as I've been reading, I have to remind myself that this is a finished book. I've been coming across things that I want to tweak or edit, which is part of why I don't normally go back and reread books that are published of my own, because it's really hard for me to not go, oh, I need to change this word, or I need to change that. Oh, look at this typo. Things like that. But I've been really enjoying it. This week's reading has the scene that was the very hardest for me to write in this entire book. The hardest thing for me to write is in this week's reading, and we can talk about that next week. My favorite, I have a lot of favorites, but one of my favorite parts was in this week's reading. And it's, spoiler again, it's the necklace that Duncan made, and his description of the knot turning in and back on itself, and how the turns are just turns in his path, and how he had thought he was coming to an end, but it turned out to just be a turn in his path. That was one of my favorite parts. I had a hard time trying to get the words just how I wanted them, but I really liked his description of that. So that was one of my favorite parts of the book. And just about any part with Gran is a favorite part. And we have now, another spoiler alert, we have now seen the last of Gran, which you probably figured, but it's a little sad for me because I love Gran. So I'm really considering putting my current project on hold so I can go write Gran's story, because I miss Gran. Okay, at the end of the book, I do want to point out, at the end of the book, you will get to this page, Setting History Straight. I did mess up history. So if you want to know what really happened, you should read that section. I hope that you enjoy this week's reading. Come back next week to have your questions answered. Send me your questions. If you want to show me where you're reading or what snacks you're having while you're reading, share it on social media. Use the hashtag Irish Time Traveler. No, I am not Irish. I had that question. I didn't include it in these. I am not Irish. I don't have Irish lineage. I have English, Danish, Dutch. My husband's ancestry is Scottish, but no Irish. So, bonus question there for you. I hope you enjoy this week's reading. I hope that you enjoyed the story altogether. And I will see you again one last time next week.